I would say this is one of those projects where you just sort of take it a bit at a time, and you should have no problem with it. That's all woodworking is. It's just sort of breaking things down and doing those little parts and then moving on to the next thing. So the big question was, how did I attach the top to the cabinet? I attached the top with 2 screws at each end of the cabinet. The screws are about 3.5 inches apart at the center. And the question or the worry whenever you're dealing with solid wood is, if you screw the top down, are you going to have a problem with expansion and contraction? And so that's why I kept the screws close together. And most of the expansion and contraction will be on the outside of those screws, and I'm confident that I won't have any problem with the top cracking. Anthony Tobias asked, why do you always buy your wood S4S? Well, I didn't buy the top S4S. I had to do some milling with that. I feel when you buy wood that's rough sawn, you often can't see what the wood looks like or what the grain looks like. So in my business, at least for me, it works out to buy the wood S4S. S4S standing for surfaced on 4 sides. Okay. Scott asked, have I ever made a painting or a piece of furniture and then find it hard to part with? And the answer is no. And the reason for that is generally things that my clients buy are taken better care of in their homes than they are in my own. There's a kind of a census of opinion that if I made it, then Dad can just fix it. So things don't seem to get as well taken care of in my own house. So I love for pieces to go out the door, and then sometimes I'll see those pieces at a cocktail party or something like that, and that's always kind of a cool thing when you see one of your paintings or a piece of furniture. So I like to make things, get them out the door, and move on to the next project. Chuck P. and a few other people asked, what did I use for the nail filler on the Hvlp? Well, for that base, I used a wax stick. Sometimes I'll mix up sawdust and epoxy mixture, but these, you know, I originally got this at one of the box stores and I wasn't able to find it last time, but it's like a crayon, and you rub it into the nail hole and then rub off the residue. And because it's a base, it's very low, nobody's really going to get down there and look at it, so I was fine using the wax stick for filler. JX made a comment, beautiful work, and then he said, it makes me sick when you guys make these projects and all your miters line up and all your cuts are perfect. Well, they aren't. But the video would be so long if I made a cut and then trimmed it and then trimmed it again to fit. So generally, what I try to do when I was working on the base, I'll cut that first miter a little bit heavy. You don't want to cut it light because then you're going to have to make more molding. And often I only make enough molding for what I need. And so then you'd have to reset up the saw and maybe even buy more lumber. So for the most part, when I'm cutting a miter, I'll cut it a little bit heavy, and then I'll have some room to work with and get a nice tight fit. Mangoes as weapons. His question is, why do I brush paint when I have an Hvlp sprayer? I only have one Hvlp sprayer, and I don't want to run paint through it because then when I run lacquer through it, the lacquer might pick up some of that paint and spray that into the finish. If I had a really professional designated spray area and 2 guns, then I might spray both. Sometimes people want the painted finish too. They want the brush painted look. That's kind of an in thing now. So, but really it's because I only have one spray gun and I don't really have a great setup right now for spraying. Christopher Cranshaw asked, why aren't you using the 23 Cadex nailer? Well, because I only have a 23 gauge Cadex nailer and I wanted to use 18 gauge nails on that project. I use the pin nailer for smaller moldings and finer work. 2 Car Garage wanted to know what color did I paint the cabinet, and the paint was provided by the client. This was to match the existing bookshelves that they have and the trim in that room. and it's a Benjamin Moore color. It's a semi-gloss paint, and the name is Hush, H-U-S-H. A few people asked why use plywood over MDF. Generally, when I'm doing anything structural, I'll lean towards plywood over MDF, because in my experience, MDF just doesn't hold a screw very well. And so I'll use MDF for things like padding things out. It is a really great surface for painting, but when you're dealing with something that you're going to be screwing into and depend on that screw holding, then I really don't like MDF. Again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the great response to this video, and I'll see you soon.